Thank you. Hi, everybody. Just want to make sure you hear me okay? The speaker, okay. Weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet. I write those meals down. I commit them to my sponsor or another qualified person. I don't eat in between meals, no matter what. Abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. It's a privilege to be abstinent today, and I don't want to ever forget that. Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'm not sure that it was this meeting, but there was my first experience with Zoom meetings was a 3 p.m. Eastern time. It was a European meeting. I used to race home from work so that I can be at my computer at 3 p.m. It was pre-COVID. When COVID happened, I was so grateful that I had been coming to Zoom meetings. And so it was like when Theta texted me, I said, I'm going to make it work. I said, I'll close my office door and I'll speak from my office. And I'm a little bit scattered. I just trying to get on 2 devices. I don't know. I was like, I got on late and I don't like coming late. I've been working on this since 10 of, but that was higher powers plan. I don't know why it just wasn't working, but I'm here. And I'm here to build a defense against the first pint. And I'm here to tell you what God did for me. Because when I first came into these rooms in January, well, actually, my abstinence date is January 7th, 2005. I came in November. No, I did not come in November. I heard about, you see, I'm a little scattered. I heard about Gray Sheet in November. I got on a phone meeting. So maybe you can say I came in. I got on a phone meeting. It was a Sunday night. It had been the Sunday night of the Gray Sheet Roundup, and people were on fire. It was scary. I hung up the phone. I didn't call back. And it took me till January to come in. That's when I came in. So that's when I actually walked through the doors of a face-to-face meeting and I sat in the seat. And I maybe didn't declare to you all, but I didn't declare to myself, but I declared to you all that I'm a compulsive overeater because I was willing to sit in the seat and barely fit into one seat. Super morbidly obese. I was 33 years old. I did not believe that you guys had the answer. And I came to a meeting and it was in a basement of a gray room, and the folding chairs, if I remember correctly, were gray. I mean, that was like really auspicious. And there were it was a women's only meeting, which was really nice for me. It was really nice for me. It felt really safe. It's like God sent me there, but it was like I was able to be myself. I was able to be real, and there were a bunch of thin women in the room. I was like, I'm in the wrong place. And I share this because this woman broke anonymity, but I think that's why I stayed. So it was a God thing. And it's somebody I'm still friends with in the rooms today who really upholds the tradition. So it was like really a God thing. Every time someone spoke, she pinched me and she said, big numbers. I'm like, huh? And this was a woman who came from big numbers and she identified that like there was no way I can, even what they said, I couldn't hear what anyone was saying. I was so steeped in the food and the fog, I couldn't hear, but I could see. And I saw women in normal size bodies who she told me, came from big numbers, whatever that meant. And now I know this big and this big and this very big. And I'm proud to say I'm from very big. And I needed to really, I couldn't doubt this. Like God knew, like if I'm gonna take salad and put it into a cup or put it on a scale, like I need to really be convinced that I have a serious disease and that I have to do whatever it takes. So yeah, I was at that first meeting and it was over and I ran. No, they said get a sponsor, I ran. They said get a gray sheet, I ran. They say, speak to people, connect to people. I was out of there like a rocket. I heard the truth. I was looking at the answer and there was no way I was going to do this. People were vulnerable. They shared. Nobody was able to give anybody else feedback. They talked in the eye. Nobody told me what to do. Nobody said how many ounces of anything you're supposed to have. I mean, everything that I knew about diets, like this was nothing. And then they stood in a circle and they held hands and they prayed. That was really weird. And I went to a face-to-face meeting and we were holding hands in a circle. It was the most comforting, centering, beautiful experience. I don't know how I could ever thought that something like that was weird. It fills me, and coming to meetings and sharing about my experience helps me identify with what's going on for me, and it helps me talk about my truth. And I also know that when I speak about my truth, other people can identify or not identify, but we heal together. And what can be weird about that? So God loves me. And the next morning I called the woman who 12-stepped me, who did not come to that meeting, but she had told me about the meeting. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And she said, you need a sponsor. And I'm like, so how do I go about this? And she said, you know what? I was sponsoring somebody who's no longer available. I can sponsor you. And she told me what to do. And I kicked and screamed because she told me 4 ounces of protein and 8 ounces of fruit for breakfast. And I said, I am 5'7". I weigh 383 pounds. I am going to die if I have to eat that and then wait 4 hours. You guys, you do not what you're talking about. And she says, but that's what we do. And that's what I love about the Grey Sheet community. And that's the answer my sponsor gives me consistently. If I ask or if I balk, she says, but that's what we do. We together, this is what we all do. No one's telling me I have to do it. But this is what we do. So in order for me to be part of this big, huge we, this is what we do. And it was a subtle message. I don't think I really heard it then, but I listened. And I think that's the biggest miracle. I had an abstinent breakfast that was weighed and measured and committed. And then I had an abstinent lunch, which was weighed and measured and committed. And of course, foods listed on the Grey Sheet. And then I had an abstinent dinner. And my sponsor said that was day one. Yay. It actually, my day one is January 7th. I started weighing and measuring on January 5th, but we talked about what I was going to eat, but I didn't officially write it down and I didn't officially commit it to her. And she said, Chavie, officially write it down, commit it. Let's have a crystal clear, beautiful day one. And that was, January 7th, 2005. And wow, I would love to say it was amazing. I had migraine headaches. I sat on my hands. I went out of my mind. I went from phone call to phone call. That's all I did all day. It was the period of time in my life I was not working. My daughter was in preschool, so she was out most of the day. My job was now I know. It was like I had just sent her back to school and I was like trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And God said, what you're doing with your life now is getting Grey Sheet abstinent. And that's all I did. I spoke to GreySheeters. We didn't text. There was no texting then. No, I didn't text then. I went out, people took me out for lunch and dinner, and they showed me how you weigh and measure your food, and they showed me what to do. And I burned up those phone lines. I was on every single phone meeting that was available. Not as many, but there were plenty. It saved my life, saved my life. And that's all I did. I did Grey Sheet, I did Grey Sheet, I did Grey Sheet. I remember calling my sponsor after 90 days and telling her, I don't know, I'm still out of my mind. I mean, between breakfast and lunch was a nightmare. I was like, when is my next meal? I don't know if it was physical hunger. I don't know if it was emotional hunger, but all I wanted to do was eat. And we just kept saying, we don't eat no matter what. And I pick up the phone and say, I don't eat no matter what. And lunch is in 2 hours. I would literally count the minutes. And people talked about 90 days and the cravings passing. That was not my experience. I cannot tell you when it happened, but I remember at some point, 4 or 5 months down, I was like, oh, it's lunchtime. That's the miracle that I get if I stay abstinent and I keep weighing and measuring my foods, I get to see what can happen. If I don't get to see what could happen. So that was like, oh, that was a miracle. And I'm grateful I had the time to be able to 100% completely and totally dedicate myself to getting abstinent and learning how to stay abstinent. I got straight into service. I went to meetings, I led meetings. there was something intuitive that I knew that I need to be in the center of the herd. I knew there's no poolside for this compulsive overeater, this addict. I mean, I have this disease and it's just there's different levels of the disease. Is
That's
that
10
10
minutes.
minutes? Yes. And I knew I needed to get like straight into service. And I did. And also meetings. Like I said, I did tons of full meetings. I was going, I mean, I would go after a long day. I would travel by train. I live, into the city. And I was really lucky. I live in New York and Manhattan. We had meetings. I would go to one downtown Manhattan. I'd go to one meeting. We were at what point? I don't know. It was like a right after a work meeting, and then I'd go to the 8 p.m. meeting, and I'd meet my buddies. We'd be like, "Oh, you going?" And we'd walk across town, or we'd go for coffee, or have our lunch and dinner in Starbucks, and that's all I did. That's all I did, and it was a foundation. It was a foundation. I learned from you how to weigh, measure without exception. I learned from you how to have tons and tons of backup always. I have frozen backup, weighed and measured. I have dry backup, weighed and measured. I have cans and non-perishables. Um, we just finished the Passover, and there are a lot of food restrictions, and it's a lot of cooking. The first thing I did, I prepared myself. It's 10 days. The whole thing was 10 days if I counted the day before and the day after. And it was 10 days. So really what I needed, I prepared my weight and measured cooked vegetables in 8-ounce portions. So do the math. I had 48 portions in the freezer. And I was like, what am I going to do? And then somebody called me towards the end of the holiday, and she said, I don't know, I have all this excitement going on in my house. I have food, I have way to measure food, but I'm like so scared. She doesn't live far from me. She said, I know you always have tons of food. If I need, can I come? And I said, well, maybe I should just put some in a messenger service. She goes, I don't need you to send it, but I need to know that if I need food, I can come. I'm like, come, my freezer is yours. So, and if it goes in the garbage, it goes in the garbage. You taught me how to travel. The first time I got on a plane, it was for a work-related conference. I had all my food. I texted a GreySheeter that the seat belt without an extender closes with space. Oh, I have to pick my hands up. My camera's really high on this computer. I didn't fit into airline seats. I always needed an extender. There was a time I traveled, I booked 2 seats for me and my toddler daughter, who I didn't take with me, but I wanted that seat. The pain of this disease. So it's a small price to pay to have a suitcase with weighed and measured dried vegetables and vacuum packed proteins. And that suitcase is there. And every time I travel, I put my clothing in and all my food in. I always take an extra suitcase. Always, always, always. And it's always full of food. And I always take food with me because I never know what's going to happen. Very recently, I had one of my suitcases. I already got an email on the plane that one of the suitcases didn't make it out of New York and it's going to come the next day. I was freaking out. I said, it's for sure my food, and I'm already planning what I'm going to do. And I'm emailing where I was going. I was going to spend some time with my parents. I don't have my food, and I'm going to need to figure it out. And I have the next 3 days of food with me, but the food was coming the next day because I always travel with far from number 10 meals. But I had it all figured out, and I got off the plane, and the suitcase that came rolling off the carousel was the one with the food and the clothing. But I was able to wear some of my mom's clothing because I'm in a normal size body today. So that was okay. It was good. I had, and I could have gone to Walmart and got myself something to wear. So, and just appreciating that. I'd probably just have a few minutes left, but I want to talk about a little bit about finding the source that helps me stay abstinent, because I think that's a very, very big deal for me. In the beginning, it was me, and I was, no matter what, I'm going to meetings and we do this together. Absolutely, I cannot. But at
1
some
minute,
point,
Chavie.
thank
1
you, I
minute.
started losing. Thank you. I started losing that power. I couldn't power myself. And, you told me get into the steps, and you need to find a higher power that's going to source you and that's going to fuel you. And God took care of that too. I've done different things. I've done AWOLs, and I've done little, quick things through the steps, and I've gone to workshops, and I did a very extensive, and I did an extensive process out of the big book, and I found a God that really works in my life doing that. And I know today, everything I have, I'm going to show you this. I've been in my office, Director of Awesomeness. Someone gave this to me, and that's because I'm not the director. The big book says God's the director. So of course, somebody that works for me comes in and gives this
That's
to me
kind,
because
Chavie.
it's not me. The
Yeah.
Director of Awesomeness is the God that I have in my life. I don't need no matter what. I'm so grateful I had this opportunity, and I can't wait to hear from you.